Hi everybody. It's been about 4 months, I think, and I haven't made any videos. It's been so busy on my side, starting a different business, getting into new ventures, and just living life and going through the motions of, you know, really focusing on yourself and dealing with your fears, dealing with my fears. So I took a break and thank you for being patient. Thank you for being there for me. Thank you for the messages. Really, really stood me through some dark times. So I really appreciate that. And I just want to talk about some learnings because I've watched Brian Tracy, and I'll play some clips from him in another video. But I was watching Brian Tracy, and he was talking about the use of the superconscious mind. So you have your subconscious, which is your impersonal doer of your word. So whether your word is good or whether your word is bad, the subconscious obeys your word. It's a massive, powerful tool at your disposal, acting out your every woman fancy subconsciously. It controls what's manifesting perfectly for you, for me. So I was just glad to get more into the subconscious, the divine mind that everybody taps into. Brian Tracy describes it as if you're sitting in a meeting room and everybody is kind of on the same page and it's flowing, at work, and everybody can kind of tap into this ether that's in the air. And he spoke of Tesla, one of the brilliant inventors of our time, demonstrating how you could charge devices up through the air, literally air, no wires, nothing around you, just tapping into that quantum field, which is pure charge, electricity, energy. That's kind of what we're made up of. And no one has ever been able to demonstrate it since then. I'll put a link to Brian Tracy's video. It's really, really fantastic. But just working with that subconscious mind, and I was actually talking to one of my best friends last night, actually, night before last, and they were actually discussing this entire thing. And I was telling him about it, and I said to him, he was asking me, what do you mean? Do we use more than 10% of our brain? And I was like saying, all the things that you and I have been discussing this past few years about ourselves, what we've been going through, our existential angst, our spiritual path, our families, our friends, our lovers, our kids, our work, our passion, our dreams, our anxiety, panic, fear, everything I said to him that you and I have ever spoken about was keeping us literally under the 10% mark. You have to free yourself from those self-imposed shackles in order to operate optimally, energetically, the way, for example, Tesla demonstrated. For example, if, like, the country I'm living in is going through an energy crisis at the moment, so the power kind of goes off for a couple of hours a day, and you've got to use backup power. If you think of it that way, if you think of having a backup battery that charges, if you go camping, for example, you've got a backup battery that charges only certain devices. You can only charge certain devices. And that's what we've been doing all this time. It was quite an eye-opener. I know it sounds simple, but it was quite an eye-opener because I was thinking to myself, wow, so all the stuff that I was thinking and considering and wondering about and spending my energy and time on for these past 50 years on this planet has been going to the wrong thing. It's kind of funny, okay? I mean, the things that I thought were important, like this fight with so and so, this person in my family, my siblings, and my issues, and my money worries, and my letdowns, and my heartbreaks, and what this person did or said to me, and where am I in life, and my background, and my culture, and my childhood. I mean, you name it. All of that is, I was literally feeding, energetically feeding things that don't serve me. At the time, I thought they were important, they were critical, they, they were the events in my life at the time that I was had placed on a pedestal, only to find out that as important as I thought those issues were, and as important I thought my relationship to those issues were, my sadness, my anxiety, my pain, my happiness, my whatever, was actually being channeled to things that don't serve me. And you have to be wise to that. You have to train yourself to see where you are coming from. You've got to ask yourself. You've got to learn. I mean, you've got to apply those learnings. So what I learned was, what am I still holding on to? Am I still holding on to being a victim of XYZ? Of my blame and my pain? How important my pain is? I learned, that sentence that goes through all our heads. How could they? Poor me. How could they do that? How could they say that? How could that person do that to me? Now when I look at it, it seems so silly. But at the time, it was the biggest thing in my life. What was being done to me, or how I was doing stuff to other people, or how I was failing in something. And now I've got to ask myself, like, how does that serve me? How did that thinking that way? How did thinking that way constantly, day in, day out, month in, month out, year in, year out, decade after decade, perfecting that false way of thinking, honing it like a skill, like a ballet dancer, like a wrestler, like an athlete, a super athlete, like someone who's like excellent in their field, an artisan. I was honing how to be less than my real self. That's what I was working on without realizing it. Because how did that serve me? How did that serve me to think that way about somebody else? I'll tell you how it served me, and it may work for you, this example. So I was thinking, how, for example, how could they, my pain on something? Because that served me. It served me because it made me feel justified in my righteousness, that I was right and they were wrong, or he or she was wrong, or this company, or whatever, the country, the government, your husband, your wife, your kid, society. And that, that allowed me to hold on to that pain a little longer, because it was giving me that sense of righteousness, that sense of, and that in turn, ask yourself why again, why? And that in turn gives you that feeling of importance, that you are better than whatever, that you are better than that, because you're right, that they are wrong. So see that for what it is. It's a prop. It's a prop to make me feel relevant. I'm feeling more relevant because that pain is giving me importance. So if I'm more important, I'm obviously more relevant, and I'm not my worst fear. I'm not invisible. I'm not feeling like I don't matter. My issues matter. This is my ego. My ego is screaming for attention, it's shouting for attention, shouting to be heard, to feel important, to feel like I matter. And you have to be wise to that nuance about how these things drive you, what drives you, what drives your behavior, your speech, the way you act and talk. These are actually false beliefs. These are the false idols. You are your own worst enemy. I am my own worst enemy. So once you have that realization, you don't have to worry. You can just, that awareness, the raising of the awareness is the release. The release of that false idol is when you simply become aware of it. Your mere awareness, most of the work is done. And then you just make that decision, that choice to let go then and there. There's no sitting in therapy or going on endless retreats to talk about your pain. That's the mistake a lot of us are doing. Putting a spotlight on it, energizing it incorrectly. You can imagine what Tesla would say to that. You can simply release whatever's driving you with fear, shame, guilt, anger, remorse, helplessness, worthlessness. And you will feel this wash of relief come over you, because it's like literally being bound with a chain and not realizing it. The shackle, self-imposed. You'll just feel a wave of gratitude. So just some examples from some of the clients, that are not getting along with some people in their lives, that they were feeling resentful, they were feeling jealous of, and asking themselves, what is that jealousy doing for them? It's doing something, because that's why they're holding on to it. The resentment is doing something. Why them, not me? Why are they successful and not me? Why are they in a happy relationship and not me? What's going on? There's this underlying feeling of jealousy, of resentment, because what's really driving that feeling of resentment and jealousy is something underneath that's lurking there, that you don't really want to name. There's a monster lying there, and you don't really want to look at it, or you don't want to acknowledge it, but it's that thing inside that you hide, that says that everyone's doing better than you, and everyone's in a better place than you. Others are having what you would like to have, because you're not good enough, you're flawed. There's something wrong with you. Even if you get it, it breaks. Even if you get a success, it gets taken away, because there's something fundamentally wrong with you. You're not good enough, you're flawed. And somebody will find that out. They'll find out what a fraud you are. And they will not want someone like you. The company will not want you. A loved one will not want you. Your family will not want you, because they'll find out that you're a fraud. So you ask yourself, what is that pain giving you? And you come to these realizations only to find out that it was based on a false assumption about you, because this is completely not true. The awareness of that false assumption is the letting go. And you can just simply release and let go of these false idols. False, F-A-L-S-E in caps. False. Because you're wonderful, you're healthy, you're perfect. Just another example. Sorry, my dogs are scratching here. Alfie, I'm recording, please. Sorry about that. Another example, one of my clients, they had these friends. They're all, these friends, and they were at odds. They all live in a small town, and they kind of like see each other regularly, and they're kind of like at odds with each other. And my client was kind of like there for their friends, for the two friends, playing kind of like the neutral person who was. The other two were at odds with each other, and my client was kind of like the person in the middle, and listening to the one side of the story, and then going to the other friend and listening to the other side of the story, and playing this role of being a good friend and listening and saying the right thing, and genuinely at times sending love and sending light and all of that good spiritual stuff, and giving good advice. But there was a part of my client that was enjoying their fallout, if that makes sense. The part of it. And when he became aware of this, he had to ask himself, what was that? What was that doing? What was that doing to want them to have problems with each other? Because if the focus is on the two friends having problems with each other, then that means my client was not as messed up as them. They are the ones that are dysfunctional. They are the ones that are always at odds with each other, always going at each other, and I'm better because I'm the neutral party, I'm the savior, I'm the rescuer, and secretly just always hoping they'll be dysfunctional, because if they were not dysfunctional, then he would become more visible as the fraud of being better than them, and they would think less of him, and the embarrassment would creep in. He's not as brilliant as they thought he was, and they wouldn't need him. He would be worthless. He would be invisible. So that's really what was driving. Just ask yourself, what's driving you? What is really driving you? Despite your good intentions, despite your the right words that you are saying, and the prayers that you're doing, and meditations, or whatever it is, the quiet time, despite how good you think you are, what is really, really driving you? And it'll happen quickly. When you uncover it, it happens quickly. The awareness. You don't have to sit for years on this one, or months or weeks. We're all at the place where reality creation is happening faster, especially for those of us that really, really want it. So where are you coming from? What kind of place are you coming from? And find it out so you can let go. You can let go and liberate yourself. That's the answer. The answer is to continuously expand the expression of who you are. And some people go through years not even realizing this, that the expression of themselves is small-minded and small, basically, because it's based on a false belief of, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I'm a fraud, there's something fundamentally wrong with me. Those are all subconscious assumptions that are really driving the show. So no matter what you do, doesn't matter what you do, it's going to manifest itself. So uncover those falsities constantly. It's not a once-off. It's a daily. It's second nature to expand into your real self. So you're expanding out, and you're shutting down the false assumptions. And in that process, when you let go, when you raise your awareness of the false, of the lies that you've been telling yourself about yourself, in that moment of raising, you install the new quantum program, you install the new neural network that says the truth about yourself, how amazing you are, and how amazing others are. You can want your friends to be okay with each other, to meet independently of you in that example, to not be at odds with each other. You can actually wish that genuinely, knowing that their union does not affect you. Their fight or their happiness doesn't affect you. You want them to be happy, genuinely so. You're not secretly wishing for their downfall. So that's where it's at, to genuinely want that, to genuinely, legitimately, deep dive want that for yourself and others. Not 50%, 90%, and there's a part of you that's scared of someone else's success, scared of someone else's happiness or good fortune or love or joy, because where does that leave you? The longer you hold on to that, the longer you sit in that, you're just making it unnecessarily hard for yourself to live optimally, to live for what you came for, and to operate above the 10%. And it's not personal, it's just going to be a mirror reflection. The world is just a reflection. It's a photograph. It's clinical. It's not personal. So if you're thinking XYZ, it's a photograph. Doesn't matter what else you're trying to do. The subconscious dictates and the superconscious liberates. Love to all of you. Please like, share, and subscribe. And let's just get into more and more genuine, real conversations that are transparent. Even if we're demonstrating these weaknesses about each other, to each other, it's okay. That's where our strength lies.